how many of you were there in the last week? We did take some sessions online as well as offline. So how many of you were there? Just raise your hands. Okay, I could see few of you. Okay, issues. Okay, so how many of you are having Android Studio downloaded already on your systems? Just raise your hands. Rest you can. Am I audible? Can anyone just confirm?
Yes, Kushi, you are audible.
Okay, okay, okay. Okay, so these are the people who have downloaded Android Studio. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Okay, so I think we should start now. So this is the event which we are holding this time. That is AndroAthon. What we are gonna do is we'll hold two sessions for this, in which we'll give some tutorials and we'll show you, and you along with this will build that chat app. Then there'll be a hackathon for a week, and in that you're supposed to build. We'll be giving you a task, and you'll have to build it. So yeah, that is it about it. So can we move on to the next slide, Baba? So these are the links for our WhatsApp community and Discord server. You can join it if you haven't yet. Yeah, next. Yeah, so for those who were not there in the last session, we can have a quick recap for those people. What we actually did in our last sessions, we had a introduction. We had a brief introduction about what is Android Dev, how do we get started with it, and all those stuff. Then we did talk about views, view attributes, matching and padding, view group, layouts, intents, and many other stuff. So we are going to have a recapitulation of what we have done. So those who are not there, they won't be missed out. Yeah, so let's go on the next slide. Yeah. So let's talk about what are views. We are just having a recap. So we won't be going into much detail. We'll be having a overview about what exactly are the views. Okay. So first of all, there are few kinds of views. Let's see them one by one. The first one is the text view. What exactly is the text view? In text view, you are just supposed to see. It's similar to see out. Like many of you might be knowing C++ or C. So it's similar to see out. Whatever you want to display on your system or the page you are building. So whatever you want to print over that, you just put it in a text view. Then there is something called as edit text view. That is, let's suppose you want to take input from the user, like in the C program or the Python or the C++ program, you might have used that sometimes you need to take input from the user. So how will you do that here in Android? We have something called as edit text view. In that, you will just mark that view in your XML, and then uh, in that the user can input whatever he wants you to take in. Okay. After that, we have something called as checkbox view. That is simply there will be some options, and you'll have to check that. You can build that, and we do that in a checkbox view. Then the next view we have is the image view. As you can see here, this image, we are storing it in a view which is known as image view. Okay. Then the next one is the button view. As the name suggests, it is a button actually. When you click on it, then you have the option to get into a next view. Like yeah, so you might have seen that whenever you register or log in on any of the websites or let's say any app, so you have option to log in or register or something like that. So what exactly is that? It is a button. That is when you click on it, then something happens after this. That is you get into a new activity or let's say you get into a new fragment. So that is what we do it in a button view. Now we have the another thing that we call as date picker. I think many of you are familiar already with it. It is just a kind of a table from where you just pick the date. So that is known as date picker. Then we have an image button view. As you can see that here is an image, and that is basically a button. When you will click on it, then it will act as a button. That means that you will get into a new fragment or activity, whatever you have designed after that. So it's basically a button only. After that, we have radio button view. That is, it's similar to your what we saw in checkbox, but the only difference is here those are here in the format of radio buttons. Okay, so yeah, that was it. Now let's move on to the next slide. Yeah. Now let's talk about margin and padding. What is margin? Like you could have seen that on a even if you do some I mean you could have seen on a page that there is a margin. What exactly the margin is? You have a view, right? And there are some extra spaces. So whenever you want to edit that extra space, that is, even if you want to extend the length or the width of that margin, or sometimes you need to contract that margin, right? So what exactly is the margin? It is the extra space that is outside the view. Like here in this image, you can see the green box, right? This green box is basically your view, and outside that there is a space. That space is what exactly we are referring to as margin. The next thing here is the padding. As you can see inside the view, there is the content, and that's what we need. That is the content. It can be an image, it can be a text, or whatever you want. You can put you can put it as a content. Then outside the content, whatever is the space outside the content and inside the margin, that is we call as padding. Whenever you will try to increase the padding, the content will shrink, and whenever you will try to, contract your padding, your content will expand. All right. Okay. So I think this was pretty much clear. If you have any doubts till this point, you can ask. You can unmute yourself and ask. Okay. So I'm assuming that everything is clear. Okay. So the next thing we have is the view attributes. Now, as we have already talked about what exactly are the views, I think it will be a bit more clearer to talk about attributes now. See, when you have a text or a button or an image, sometimes you need to, you have to format it according to your design. Like you're building an XML and you have to make your button something. You want to implement a particular design over a button. So how exactly you will do it? You will try to have a color for that button. Then you will try to implement a background color, background. Then you have a text color. Then you'll have the height of the button. Then there'll be width. Then let's say inside that button there is something written. So if you want to format it, like you want to have a particular font of that text or the size. So everything which I have talked just now, it's all the features of what we'll be talking in the attributes. For example, here is a text view as you can see in the image. Inside this, there is something called as layout width, then there is layout height, then there is text, background, text color, layout center horizontal. So what exactly are these? That is, you have a particular text view and let's talk about the first thing, that is the layout width. Let's say you have a text view and you want to set a particular width. So you just have to implement that inside this attribute. That is layout width. Similarly, if you want to set a particular height, you will do that inside this layout height. Then there is the next thing is the text. That is, if you want what exactly you want inside that text, you will write that in this. That is, see for example here we want hello world, so we are just passing that hello world as a string inside our text. Okay. Then we have this background. This is basically the background color which we will be setting. Then, and whatever you can see these codes, these are the hexadecimal codes for the colors, which we'll be talking about when we'll be actually implementing all of these. Then we have text color, that is, as the name already suggests, that it is the color of the text which you want to have. Then after that, there'll be the layout. That if you want to have, we'll talk about the layouts, the relative layout, and all those things in our subsequent slides. So we'll talk about it later. So I think you have got a basic idea of what exactly we mean when we talk about attributes. That is, we are we just want to implement some of the features inside those views. So attributes are basically those features only. Fine. So is it clear? If it is clear, you can give me a thumbs up. I can relate to it. Okay, fine. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, so now we have layouts. What exactly is a layout? There are two types of layout. I'll say there are two major types of layouts. The first one is the linear layout, and then another one is the relative layout. In the linear layout, as you can see, here we are having two further types of layouts. The linear layouts, that is the horizontal linear layout and the vertical linear layout. In the horizontal linear layout, it's very clear that these are just placed, the components are placed horizontally. And in the vertical linear layout, the components are placed vertically. So there is nothing much into it. It's as simple as you can see here in the image. Then the another one is the relative layout. What exactly is a relative layout and how it is different from the linear layout? We'll talk about it. As you can see, when you have a see, as you can see, here is a box, blue and orange colored boxes. What exactly are these boxes? These boxes are the views. It can be an image view, it can be a text view, it can be a button or anything. So let's say that let's talk about this center. You can see a view which is there in the center. So what we have done is we have used a relative layout and we have assigned the center alignment to it. That is, we have uh, we have set this particular view to the center of our page. Similarly, here we are using the left, here we are using the right, here we are using the bottom of screen. So how are we saying it's relative? It's relative because we are fixing those positions relative to our screen size. Okay. Similarly, we have top left, top middle, and top right. So you cannot differentiate between linear layout and relative layout. So yeah, this was it about layouts. Now let's move to the next slide. Yeah, so the whatever we have talked till now, it was just an overview of what we have covered in our previous sessions. But never mind, I think that those who were absent in the previous sessions, they could also get a few. I guess you would have get a hang of it, not completely, but yes, a bit more than what you had previously. Okay, so I think that it'll be you'll be having a better clarity when we'll be doing it live. We're just gonna go live in few more minutes. So before that, let's see what are we going to cover today. Or more precisely, I'll say what are we going to build today, okay? Because all of you will be building along with us. So the first thing that is, as I said in the beginning itself, that we'll be building a chat app. That is, see, like when you use the chat app, like let's say you use WhatsApp, then you can see that whenever you click on a particular contact, then you can chat. That is, you put on a text view, then you get a text view. So all these things we'll be doing. Just before all of this, we'll be having a login page. Like how do we create a login page? It's XML. Then we'll be seeing that how are we taking the inputs from the user. Like as I mentioned, we will be using edit text and all those stuffs. Then let's say you have, let's say for example, uh, let's say you have a particular app, okay, and you want to you'll have to create an account over it, right? So what you'll do is, first of all, you'll have to register since you are the first user, first time you are using that app, so you'll have to create your account over it. So what you will do is you will pass your email ID, then you will give your name, your roll number, your you set a password, then DOB and all other details which are required that in that particular app. Then there'll be a button called login or register. So you will click on it. Then what will happen is you might have seen that sometimes or many times I should say it happens that you will there is something called as authentication. What is it? When you use it, you will get a particular link over your email or the phone number or whatever kind of authentication that app is using. Let's say we'll talk about email authentication. So when you're giving an email ID, then you'll be receiving a particular link over your email ID. Just to they're using it just to ensure that you are the right owner of that email ID. So that is what we call authentication. So we actually do that authentication with a file-based authentication. So we'll be showing you that live and you will be doing that along with us. So then you'll be getting a link over your email and you'll have to click on it just to authenticate that you are the owner of that email ID. So that is what we call Firebase authentication. So today we'll be learning how are we going to create a login page. Then we'll be creating a register page. Then we'll be learning how can we do this Firebase authentication. Okay, and then we can, if we'll be having time, then we can talk about the Firestore as well. That is basically the database. That is whatever you have passed into that login page or the registration page. Where are you actually storing it? That is all about the database, and that is the Firestore. So I think it's time to get on live. Can we have the next slide? Yeah. Okay, so now it's time to go live. Okay, so from here, Weber will carry on.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're
Okay. So great overview, Khushi. So from now, I'll be taking onwards. So we'll be building a chat application, and we'll be having three parts. First is the login page. The second is the registration page, uh, which is this, and the third part is the Firebase authentication. So we'll be doing all these things in today's session. Uh, the session is divided into two parts. The first part is today. In today's session, we'll be learning how to do this, and in the second session, we'll be learning how we can access all those uh, users that we created in our database, and that we'll be learning in the next session, which is going to held on 16th March. And after that, you can submit your projects for the hackathon. You can do it individually, or you can create your team. Okay, so we'll be going live. And okay, so I assume that you are now with your Android Studio. Okay, so let us make a new project. Select empty activity, hit next. Okay, so I'm gonna name the application as that application. You can give it any name you want. Hit finish. Okay.
okay. Before we actually start, how many of you have, how many of you are doing simultaneously with us? You can just unmute and say. Okay, so should we wait for you? Are you getting your Android Studio set up?
Yes, I am doing.
Okay, cool. Till then, we are also waiting for others. You can also start. If you haven't have your Android Studio downloaded, then never mind. You can see to it. You're also having this lecture recorded, so you can get get started with it later. But those who are already having it downloaded, please try to do it with us. You can ask your doubts here as well, so it'll be helpful for you.
Yeah, like at any point of time, if you feel like you are having any doubt or you need to ask something, you can just unmute and ask. Please do not hesitate to ask. You can interrupt as many times you want. Okay, so now, yeah, so now we have our main activity here. uh, we'll be having the login page in the main activity. So for the registration activity, we have to create one more activity. So we have to simply just go to the package name, right click, new, and under the activity section, we have empty activity. Let us call this activity as registration or register. Hit finish. Yeah, cool. So now we have our two activities here with us. The one is the main activity, which we'll be using for the login, and the other one is the register activity, which we'll be using for the registration of the user. So for the login activity, what we want is the user can log in with the credentials, that is the
Bhaiya,
email ID, and yeah,
after activity, where we have to click?
yeah. So right click on the package name here under the Java here. This is your package name. Right click, new, in the activity section, empty activity, and you can name your activity. Is it fine?
Yeah, bhaiya. Okay.
Yeah. So this is our main activity. We'll be using this for login purpose. So now what we want is our user can log in with email ID and the password. And for that, we'll be using the edit text, and we'll be using two buttons, one for the login and one for the register. Like we have to connect the login page and the register page. So we have to like create a button for that so that we can create a connection between our main activity and the register activity. And for everything, I'm gonna use the relative layout. So let me use it. Okay, so let us start. First of all, we need a simple text view that says login. Okay, so text view, uh, its layout width should be, let's say, match parent. Height should be like wrap content. And so these are all the attributes of the what should be the text of the this text view. So text. So this should be called login. Okay, we can give the text size as, let's say, 50 dp. Okay, let us give the color as, okay, first, okay, so like you can see this login is on the screen. It is at the bottom right, bottom left corner of the screen. So I want to make it in the center. So I just need to write the another attribute, that is the center horizontal, and it should be true. Okay, like as you can see, this is as I'm using the width as match parent, so it should be as it is. So I'm gonna use the text alignment as center, so it should be perfect. Okay, for the style of the text, I'm gonna use bold. Fine. Okay, so this is our text view that says login. Okay, so let us give a margin at the top, 50 dp, let's say. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Okay, so now we need two text fields, one for the email ID and one for the password. So let us, so here the text field is the edit text, view, we can give the width as match parent, height, let's say 50 dp, and let's say the hint is email. Okay. Now I need this edit text below the login. So let's say I'm gonna give this text view, this login text view ID as the login txt. Okay, so this ID should be unique for the views. So I'm gonna give this login text view as the ID login txt. So now I want this edit text below this login. So I'm gonna use below, and I'm gonna put the ID as login txt. So now it should be under login. And I want this, uh, I want the gap between the login and the email. So I should be doing the top margin as, let's say, 20 dp. Okay, fine. Okay. But as you can see, the UI is not looking pretty good. So what we can do is we can create custom backgrounds for our UI, like under the, you can see under the res, under drawable, we can create a custom background for our application. So let us create one custom. Right click on the drawable, hit new, drawable resource file. Okay, this file name should be, let's say, background. And under the root element, it should be shape. Okay, cool. Hit OK. So now this is our custom background for our application. We can do like, let me show you. See, so there are gradient, solid, stroke, corners, padding, and size. So we can play with them as we like. Okay. So I'm gonna give a solid color, or let's say I'm gonna give a corner radius. So let's say corners radius as, let's say, 20 dp. And let's say a solid color, solid color, let's say teal. Okay. So as you can see, now this is our background for the, for like we can use this background for any view we want. Let us try it. So in the edit text, let us try this background. So we just need to use the background attribute, and the background we just created is just called background. Here it is. As you can see, but it is still not looking pretty good. So I'm gonna teach you one more thing. Let us say, so under the values, we have colors. So these are the predefined colors in Android Studio. We have purple, teal, black, white. We can add more colors. Like if we want a purple or orange, we can add more colors. So what we need to do is we just need to write color picker. So there's a website called W3 Schools. So we're gonna use HTML color picker. So here you can use any color you want. Like I want to use orange, and like this one. Okay, we have to copy the code of this one. Let us copy this code, and we have to add this. Let's say color. We have to. I'm gonna give this as a name as orange, and let us paste the code. So as you can see, this is orange. We have just added one custom color in Android Studio, and now we can use this color. So I'm going to use this color in my background. Let us say, yeah. So as you can see this, this is not looking good. So I'm going to give this, I'm going to remove the solid color and I'm going to give a stroke. The color should be orange and the width is, I'm going to give 1 dp. So this will create a border for our edit text and it should look good. As you can see, I'm gonna increase the width 2 dp. Okay, now it's fine. But you can see that the email is coinciding with the border. So I'm gonna give some padding. Padding left or any padding. So I'm gonna give 10 dp or let's say 20. I'm gonna give a padding left 20 dp. Okay, now it's fine. And I'm gonna give a left margin and a right margin. Okay, now it's looking good. Now this is our edit text or the text field for our email. So the user can enter the email here. Let us change the color of login as text color orange. I'm going to increase the gap between login and the edit text. So I'm going to increase the margin top as 50 dp or let's say 70 dp. Right. So I'll be needing the same edit text for the password. So I'm going to copy this edit text and paste it. Let us give the ID to that edit text for the email. ID as EDT email. So this is the ID for the email edit text. And I want this password edit text to be below the email edit text. So I'm going to give below. I'm going to change this below to this EDT email. Now, as you can see, we have our password. Let us change the hint as password. Yeah. And let us decrease the margin top as let's say 20 dp. Yeah, it's fine. Okay. So this is our text view. Under this text view, we have our email edit text and then the password edit text. And let us give the ID to the password edit text as EDT pass. So do you guys have any doubts? Like you can unmute. No doubts? Okay. So I'm gonna proceed. So now I want two buttons, one for the login and one for going to the register activity, right? So I'm gonna add two buttons. One button is for the login. Let us give the width as 150 and height, let's say 50. Okay. Let us give the text as let's login. Let's say text style as bold. Like now I want this to be below the password edit text. So I'm gonna write below layout below and edit pass. And let us increase the gap using top margin top, and let us give the gap as 50 or 50 dp. And I want this login button to be at the center of the screen. So center horizontal true. But I don't want this purple color background on this button. So I'm gonna do background. Let us create one more background for our login button. So let us create one more background, new, and let us call this as button bg. And the root element is shape. Yeah. So let us give the border radius as 30 dp. So I'm gonna use corners radius as 30 dp, and I should give it a solid color of orange that we just created. Let us add this background uh, button bg. As you can see, this is still not looking as we wanted. We wanted this to be orange, but it is still purple. So we have to change some things in the manifest. No, in the themes. So basically what is this is using a default material theme. So I don't want this. I want custom themes, which I can add. So let us go to the themes section, double click. So here we have themes. We have themes for all the sections of our app, like the navigation bar, the action bar, we can status bar. So I'm gonna change this as no action bar. Now it should be solved. Yeah. So as you can see, now it's purple. But I want this text color to be white. White is there in the colors. And let us increase the text size. Let's say 20 sp. And let us give this button an ID. Let's say it btn login. And I want this, and I want the same button for the register. So I'm gonna copy this. Let us change the ID. Let us call it register. And I want this to be below button login, and change the text register, and let us decrease the gap between them. Yeah. Yeah. So as you can see, we have our login page ready. We have one text view. We have edit text for email. We have edit text for password. We have button view for the login. We have button for register. So we'll be connecting two screens, that is the main activity and the register activity, through this register button. So do you guys have any doubts till now? please unmute and ask.
Bhaiya, we are using different root elements for background and button background. Why we are doing so?
Yeah, so see, we have two backgrounds. One background is for the edit text. See, in this background, we have no solid color. If we apply this, if we apply this background to our login button, let's say, uh, we apply this background. See, so this is gonna be because we have just added the stroke, not the solid color. But we want a solid color. If we want, see, this depend upon you. Okay, if you want a solid color background, you can put a solid color background. You get it?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So do you guys have any doubt? Like acha, okay. Can you name that view that I'm using for the text field? Anyone? The name of the view?
Text view.
Yeah, no, not the not. I'm asking for the text field, the email text field and the password text field, the view. What is that view?
Edit
Or just
text.
yeah, okay, edit text. Cool. And what layout are we using for our main application? Is it a linear
Relative layout.
layout? Yeah, relative layout. Okay, fine. And okay, okay, so it's fine. So now we have to make our register active, make our register activity. It will be same as this only. We have to just change some values. I'm gonna copy this, paste this in the register activity, and change the context here to register. So this is our register activity. I'm gonna change this to register. This is email, and let us remove the login button. So yeah, there should be some errors. Now this should be called, so in the register, so we want the register, so we want to register a user. We want some details of the user. So the details are like, we can we can add name, we can add phone number and email, and obviously the password. Okay, so I'm gonna use the details as phone number, email, and name. So let us change this to as name. Change this ID to name. Copy this. This should be phone. And this should be below the name. So let us change this layout below, and it should be name. Okay. And one for the password. Let's call it pass. This should be below EDT phone. password. Okay, and this register button should be below password. So I'm going to change the layout below as PDT pass. So this looks fine to me. Yeah. So I'm going to ask some questions. So if I want, like, so let's say if I want this register button to, I want this register button to should be below the register text view. So what attribute should I use? Anyone? Like what attribute should I use for the register button, and it should be below register text view? Okay, so it should be
Layout
layout below.
below. Mm.
Yeah, so it should be layout below. We're using in relative layout for, so it's all relative. So we have email, we have name, we have phone number, we have password, and we have register button. So the main thing is now we want to connect these both activities, the main activity and the register activity. So so we'll be using, so for that we have to use the Kotlin. So, so in the XML we have all the views, all what we can see, like all the button views, all the text views, all images. But for to make it interactable, we have to use the Kotlin, and otherwise it will be static and not interactable. So we have to access all those views that are in XML, like we want those which we want to make interactable, and we want to make use of them. Like uh, I want a button, and on pressing the button, the main screen should be redirected to the register activity. So for that, I have to access the button in the Kotlin file. So let us access uh, all those views that we need in the Kotlin. Okay. So I'm gonna initialize all those things. Uh, Let us say in the main activity, we have in the main activity, we have the login button. So let us give it a name, button login, and it is of type button, and I want a register button also, private, late init var. I'm gonna be using all those things, these buttons in the on create. So that's why I'm using late init var. So it should be button. You can name it as anything you want. Button. Okay. So let us initialize this as button login is equals to find view by id r dot id dot and the id name of the login button. So it was button login, and for the register button it is find view by id r dot id dot button register. Cool. So now I want that if we click on the register button, our screen should be redirected to the register activity. So we have to create an intent for that. So when we click the register button, set on click listener, now we have to create an intent. So let us create an intent while I'm gonna give it name as intent and is equals to, and we're going to jump from this activity to the register activity. So this to the register class.java. Cool. And we have to start this activity. We have created an intent. Now we have to start that activity. So start activity, and we have to pass that intent in it. Now, so now our button register. So now it's connected. So on clicking the register button, now it should be redirected to the register activity. Let us try it. Let us build the application. We'll be using an emulator. Okay, so can anyone tell me, like, why do we need these IDs? Can anyone tell me?
Okay, has anyone ever tried front end and web dev? You can relate with that if you have done so. So I think nobody has done that before.
I have tried changing the build version in the build.gradle file. No? Hello, ever.
Yeah, 1 second. I think it's because of the layout I'm using. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so meanwhile, uh, let me tell you something about the Firebase, which we'll be using for our all the backend stuffs. So why Firebase? So Firebase can handle all our backend stuffs like our authentication of the user, or the database, or the cloud storage, the image. You can store the image there. So all for all those things, we can use cloud stuff. We can use Firebase. Firebase is provided by Google, and it's also free. So we can use Firebase for the backend of our application. So this is Firebase. Yeah. So let us go to the console. So we have to add the project. Let us give the project name, and our project is creating. Okay, so this was our main XML file. Okay, so our project is ready. Yeah, so Firebase provides us with many platforms like for iOS, for Android, for web, for Unity, and for Flutter. So for today's session, we'll be using the Firebase. We have to write our package name. So let us give the package name. This is our package name. In the Android manifest file, you can copy the package name. You can give the Android app name. And you can skip this SHA key for now and register app. Yeah, so this was our app. We have the login text view, we have the email edit text, we have the password edit text, we have the login button, and we have the register button. So what we just did is we have created a connection between between the login page and the register page. So it should be redirected to the register page. So as you can see, this is uh, there is a connection between both the activities. So yeah, this is cool for now. Now, so there are two functionalities which are missing. One is the login of the user, and the other one is the registration of the user. So we need both of these functionalities in our app. So like in the register page, the user can like enter its details and it can register. So for that, we will need Firebase, and Firebase will handle all of our backend work. So let us get back to Firebase. So now, so this is the very important step. As you can see, we have created one Android app project in Firebase. We have registered the app. Now this is asking us to download the Google services or JSON file. We have to download that. Yeah, and this is saying that we should put this Google services.json file under the project in app, under the app section. We have to paste it. And the main thing is it should be named only as Google-services.json. Nothing more than that, nothing less than that. Only Google services.json. Okay. So let us copy this file. We'll copy this file and we'll add it under the Android, under project, under the app section. We have to paste. So, and it should be only named as Google-services.json. Yeah. So this is our Google services.json file. So this step is done. Next. Yeah. So we have to add some dependencies for our project, for our Google services to access those files. So I'm going to copy this dependency. Okay. And under Android, under build.gradle, this the chat app project, and as you can see, this is there. So we have to add those dependencies. I'm going to write build script dependencies, and I'm going to paste it. So now this is our this is one dependency we have added in the build.gradle file, and let us so this is step is also done. And we have to add these plugins. Just copy this. And under the build.gradle module, we have to paste these. We have to paste these dependencies. This one is already there. Like we have to paste all these dependencies. Okay. This part is also done. Continue to console. Okay, so now our application is now connected with the Firebase. We have added all the dependencies. We have added the Google-services.json file. So do you guys have any doubt? You can unmute. Okay, no doubts. So yeah. So we have our register activity and the login activity here. This is our text view. This is our email edit text. This is our password edit text. And this is our login button. And this is our register button. So you guys have any doubts till now? Like, can anyone tell me like how we connected the register activity and the login activity? You can unmute. Anyone? Okay, so what we have done is we have created one intent in the main activity, that is from this activity to the register activity, and we are starting that activity. That is the intent. Yeah. So this was our connection between the register activity and the main activity. Now we have to, and under the project, under our application, we have to paste. Okay, let me copy this. Okay, I'm gonna make a new Firebase project. So again, I'm gonna tell you this is the main step. Without this step, we're not our Firebase will not connect to our application. This is the main step, so we have to do this carefully. Otherwise, there will be no connection between our Firebase and our application. Yeah. So we're gonna copy this, and under the project, under application, we need to paste this, and the name should only be google-services.json. Yeah. So we have completed this step. Now we have to add some dependencies. So it says the root level, project level, Gradle file. We have to add, in that we have to add these dependencies. So let us add these dependencies. Under build.gradle, the first one, we have to add these dependencies. Build script and paste it. And let us sync this. Now we are syncing the Gradle file with our application. Yeah, now it's done. This step is also done. Now, now we're using Kotlin. So select Kotlin and in your module app level, build a Gradle file. So we have to add these plugins which are not there in those in the which are not already there. So let us copy this and under the module. So this is under the module build.gradle. We have to add the plugins. So we're gonna paste the plugin and under the dependencies, we have to add both of these dependencies. So let us copy this and in dependencies, copy this, paste this and sync. Yeah, so it's done. So now our application is connected with the Firebase. Let us proceed. Next, continue to console. So here is our application. Yeah. So now what we want is that user can register and user can log in through his email and password. So we have to create one user. Okay. So let us add that functionality in our application. And how can we add that? Under the build, under authentication, get started. So now it says get started with Firebase auth by adding your first sign-in method. So these are the methods which we can use for to sign in our users. So we're going to use the email passwords. Okay, and enable it, save. So under users, we can see our users, which those users which are created by the registration. So now we want to create the user. How can we create the user? So okay. So what we want is, let us go to the registration page and let us, first of all, we need to first of all we need all the we need to initialize all those things that are we will going to use for our application and the registration activity. So we'll be using the email edit text, the text value of the email edit text, the text value of the name edit text, the phone number, and the password. And we'll be registering our user using this register button. So let us initialize all of these things. This is of type edit text. And I'm going to copy this. This is for email. This is for password. And this is for phone. And one for the button. And this is of type button. Cool. Now initialize this, all of these things equals to find view by id r dot id dot pdt name. Let's copy this and We'll do the same thing for the email, password, and phone. And also the register button. Yeah. Now we have to register our user when the user presses the register button. So button register dot set on click listener. So here we have to write the logic for register. Okay. How can we register our user? So for that, we'll see the documentation of Firebase. Let us search uh, Firebase login documentation. So this is something that you do not need to like remember every time. You can use the documentation under Android under password authentication. So we already have added these dependencies. So this is step by step. How can we add the Firebase authentication? So there are some predefined methods made by this Firebase. So every time we use any third-party service, like we are using Firebase for our backend, we have to check the documentation because otherwise there is no other way. So we have to check the documentation. So this is create user with email and password. This says create a new account by passing the new user's email address and password. So we'll just copy this, paste it here. There will be some errors. Yeah. So let us first initialize the Firebase here. Firebase authentication, let us initialize here. Private. Let us call it auth. And it will be of type Firebase. It is still not synced yet. Okay. First of all, let us go to the tools section. We have Firebase under the tools. Now we want to add the functionality of authentication. We just need to, under the authentication, just go to tools, then Firebase, then here, under the authentication, we'll be using authenticate using a custom authentication system, Kotlin. So it says that connected your app to Firebase. Our app is connected as we already added the dependencies. Now we want to add the functionality for the authentication. So let us add the authentication SDK to our application. So it says that it will add some dependencies. So we'll accept these changes. We'll wait for the grid. Okay, the dependencies are set up correctly. Cool. Now we can add the Firebase authentication. Let us call it auth, and it will be of type. Okay, it is still not synced yet. Let us wait. Let me restart this project. Yeah, so now it's there, Firebase auth. Now we have created this auth, which is of type Firebase auth. Now let us initialize this here. Auth is equals to Firebase. Let us simply copy this from here. Auth equals to firebase.auth. Yeah, so here it is. Auth is equals to firebase.auth. Now we have to simply pass the email and password in this function. So let us create val variable for email that is equals to, we'll be using the text value for the email. We'll be using this added text value. So edt email dot, and do the same for the password. Let us create one variable for password, and from password, yeah. So here you can see we are creating one user with email and password. We have passed the email and password in this function. And if the task is successful, that means if the user is created, then we have to do something. And if the user is not created, we need to do something. So let us do something. So if the user is created, let's say in the register button, let's go to here. Okay, so here, when a user clicks on the register button, if the user is created, then it should be redirected to the login page, and there the user can log in and go to the next, which is the dashboard of the chat application, where the user can see the profiles of other people. Okay, so by clicking this register button, we have to register the user with email and password. So if the user is created, let us create an intent, that is val intent From this to we will go to the main activity, class.java. Yeah, we have created this intent. Let us start this activity. Pass this intent here. So if the task is successful, that means if the user is created with email and password, then we should be redirected to the main activity, that is login activity. Else, let us show some error. Post, make text. The context is this, and we're going to show some errors. That is, let's say user is not created. Show. So if the user is created with email and password, then we'll redirect it to the main activity, that is our login activity. Else it will show an error that says user is not created. Okay, so here this is fine. Now let us go to the main activity, that is our login activity. So here when the user clicks, let's say, the login button, then it should go to the main activity, that is our dashboard. So let us create a dashboard for this. So we are going to create one new activity. So under our package name, right click, new activity, empty activity. Let us call it as dashboard. Finish. Okay. So now when the user is created and when user logins, then it should be redirected to the dashboard. So let us write the code for that in the main activity. So when the button, login button, so we have to write here the logic for login. So for that also, we'll need to use the documentation of Firebase for login our users. So we have just created our user with email and password. Now we have to log in with email and password. So here it says sign in a user with an email and a password. Okay. So for that also, we need to initialize the Firebase authentication, the Firebase auth. So let us do that. Let us also access all the edit text. So one for email and one for password. Let us initialize this. Delete email. It should be the ID of the edit text, email edit text that we have created. Let us confirm. So this is our email edit text, and the ID we have given to this is EDT email. So it's all right. And same for the password. This should be same as the ID we had given to the password edit text. and it is pass. Cool. Now we have to write the logic for login. First we need to do so first we need to access the text value there in the email and password text boxes. So let us create one variable, two variables for email text and password text. So email is equals to and one for the password. This is done. Let me change this. Now we have to log in our user. So we have to check the documentation. So here it says sign in with email and password. When a user signs into your app, pass the user's email address and password to this. So we have created the email and password strings to pass in this. So we just need to copy this. It will show some error. First, we need to initialize the Firebase auth. Let us initialize that. Let us call it auth, and it should be same as this. We can change this name also, and let's say it is of type Firebase auth, and we should initialize this here. Auth is equals to Firebase dot auth. We have initialized this. So when the user clicks the login button, we should sign in the user with email and password. We have passed the email and password to this. And if the task is successful, that means that there is one user with the same email and password, then we should do something else. We should show some error. Let's say if the task is not successful, that means the Firebase is not able to find the user with the email and password that the user has written in the text box. So let us write the error for that. This context, and the error we're gonna write is user not found. Okay, and length short and show. Cool. So if the Firebase is not able to find a user with the same email and password that the user has written in the text boxes, then it should show an error that is user not found. And if the task is successful, that means there exists a user with the same email and password, then we should do something. So what we can do is we can redirect the user to the dashboard. So let us create an intent. So can anyone tell me how we can create this intent? I want to go to from this activity to the dashboard activity. So can anyone tell me how we can create this intent?
Where intent is equals to intent, and then this
Okay.
then
Well, intent equals to, yeah,
intent,
intent.
then current package,
Okay, this, and then to the dashboard, right? So
yes, yes.
dashboard class.java. Cool. So we have created this intent variable. and we have to start this activity. We have to pass this intent. Cool. So till now we have added the functionality of Firebase authentication. We are signing in by email and password. We are registering the user using email and password. And with those email and password, if the user exists, then the user will be able to go to the dashboard of the application. So let us try this. Let us build. Okay, so till now we have learned that how can we add one custom background for our application for any view. It could be any view like a button or a edit text or anything or text view. And how can we add a custom color to our application? Like there are only uh, limited colors that are predefined in Android Studio. So we can add multiple colors using their codes. Okay, so our application is ready. Let us try this. Register. Let us write the email name and register. Okay, it says the user is not created. Okay, because the network. Okay, I think there is one issue with the network in the emulator. Just okay. So is the screen is visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay.
It's visual.
Yes, भैया.
There's issue with the network in the emulator. It is still there.
So I guess there is some issue in your emulator itself. So it'll be better if you can move with the real device and yeah, if you can run your app on the real device itself rather than emulator.
Yeah.
There might be some problem in the emulator itself. Problem. We have just complete the registration partner. If you have not done, then you can run the app in your mobile and join the meet from the mobile and screen the screen.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Just complete the registration part and screen share from your mobile.
Yeah. Okay, so this was the, so we have, so we have our registration activity. So here we have just created our user with email and password. So if the user is created, we'll move to the activity, that is main activity. And after that, the user can log in using those credentials. Now, like we have just created a user, but there is a difference between creating a user and adding a user to the database. So we have just created a user. So for adding the user to the database, we will be using the real-time database in the Firebase. So under build, we have our real-time database. We'll create a database in test mode, and we will simply add the real-time database here. Here under Firebase, we have real-time database. So get started with real-time database, Kotlin, connected, add the real-time database, changes, it will add the dependencies and sync the Gradle. Now it's done. Now we have the database with us. We have created a database. Okay. So now we have to add the user to our database. So when registering, we have given email, name, phone number. Okay, so these are the details we want from the user. So let us create one data class for this Kotlin class file. Give it name as user. Okay. So here we will add all those fields that we want from the user that we are needing, and we'll add those fields in the database. So here we'll add one where for the name, it will be of type string and set its value to null, and same for the email and phone number. And also for the user ID, that is UID. So these are the data we want from the user. So let us build a constructor for that. Let's build an empty constructor, then a constructor where name string, email as string, phone number, string, and the UID. Okay. Now we'll initialize this. This dot name is equals to the name. This dot email is equals to email. This dot phone is equals to phone. Equals to the
Bhaiya,
UID. Yes.
shared screen is not visible.
Is it not visible?
Yes, Bhaiya, it is not visible.
I think it's network issue. There's network issue from your side because I can see that screen is visible to me.
Okay.
Can you just try rejoining the meet, Ankit?
Yes, Bhaiya, yes.
Is it visible?
Yes, yes. Now it's visible.
Oh, okay, fine. So we have created a constructor for that. And now, so when the user clicks on the register button, our database should collect the data of the user, that is the email, password, the email, phone, and the name of the user. For that, let us create one database reference. Let us call it dbref, and that is the database reference. Okay. Now let us initialize this. DB reference is equals to and for that we will use the Firebase documentation of the real-time database. This is real-time database for Android. Get started. We'll use the code snippets from here. So this is the real-time database. So we have added the dependencies already. Okay. So now we have to create. So now we have to add the user. So we have already initialized the edit text. We'll just simply child will, so there is a child that is that is one node. So we'll name the child as, let's say, users, and that node will connect to one more child. Will simply, that will be the UID, that is the user ID, and user ID is always unique. You will add the UID. So let us define one UID auth dot current user UID and the null safety. So we'll pass this UID here. So we have our database. In that database, one second. So we have our database. In the database, we have user as a node, and that node connects to all the users with the UID. So we have the user, and we have to set the value to that user ID, and for that we'll use our user data class that we have just created. So first we have name, then email, then phone, and then the user ID. So in the register, let us create the user. We have name, email, phone, and UID. So let us create all those things here. Email is already there. Phone equals to phone dot text dot to string. First we have to pass the name, then email, then the phone, and then the user ID. Okay. So we have simply created one user with the name, email, phone, and user ID. Like here we have simply created a data class that is user. We have given some variables, name, email, phone, and UID. We're making a constructor. We're passing the values, that is name, email, phone, and user ID, that is UID. And here, if the user register, when the user is created with the email and password, if the user is created, if the task is successful, then simply we'll create a data in the database. We'll create one user with the details of the user, that is name, email, phone, and user ID. Okay, so this was and in the main activity we have done, when the user is sign in with the email and password, if the user is found, that means if the task is successful, then we'll go to the intent, that is the dashboard. Otherwise we'll simply tell that user is not found, And in the register we have done, we can also try. So we are creating a user with email and password. And if the user is created, we'll simply put the user ID to the UID, the name and phone, and we'll pass this to the database reference. We'll create a child that will be called user. Then its child will be called UID, and in that UID, we'll setting the value as name, email, phone, and UID. So this was pretty much our application for today's session. Let me just one more try it. Okay, so we have our register. Let me change my network connection. Let me change this to Firebase. Database dot get instance dot get reference. Okay, that will be fine. Okay, so in this emulator, we have a working Wi-Fi connection. Okay, that's great. Okay, I'll simply just run the app in this emulator. Okay, so we have a register. Let us write the email. Name as
Perhaps the auth should be Firebase auth.get instance now on line 37.
um,
Yeah, it should be Firebase authentication auth.get instance. Dot get instance. Second one.
I think there is some network issue with this.
There is a typo in email ID. Just check it once.
Where?
In the email ID, in the application itself, and the emulator itself,
Yeah,
the email ID. There's a typo.
Perhaps there might be some issue with the internet in the emulator now.
yeah, there might be
Just
some
try
issue with
using
the
it. Try running it in your phone na, and then share the screen.
Yeah, let me just unshare.
वैभव क्या हुआ?
भैया मैं वो ऐप मोबाइल में कर रहा हूँ, एक सेकेंड।
अच्छा ठीक है, मूवी प्लीज 1 मिनट रुको।